So we're playing Hearts of Iron. It's kind of a complicated game at first. It's not like your other strategy games. It's very different. It's almost like learning a new language. And so once you learn this language, it becomes way easier. So let's get started. Now, personally, I love starting in 1936 when you go to single player in your game. And the reason being is that in 1936, you get more time to just like set up. But if you're a new player, sometimes starting in 1939 is a little easier. But if you have no idea like what this game's supposed to be about, well, it's World War II, and you get to pick any country you want, and that's what we play as. So when we talk about selecting a country, I love to play as a German Reich. It's fun, it's easy, and they're powerful. Now, every single country has their own buffs and debuffs, and sometimes they're honestly a lot harder than others. Like, France sucks. I don't think I've ever enjoyed playing France. USA is the most powerful in the game, but the downside is it takes a really long time for them to get involved in the game. Now, if you're looking for quick action or just learning how to play a game, sometimes I would even just say, like, pick one of these small countries. Hungary's good and easy. Romania's a little challenging, but if you truly want to learn the game mechanics and you want to play a major country and do something fun, then I would recommend your very first country, German Reich. Now, once you load into the game, it's kind of confusing. To basically sum it up, you are playing as a person in control of your country. Now, right now, we are this man. And what we start off with is the whole bunch of things, and they all go into their own tabs. And what I always recommend first is starting with your national focus. So when you load into any country, you're going to get all these things that you have to click on and do. And I say, hey, it's easy, start with a national focus. And what that means is that this is it's almost like how we progress as a country. And how we progress as a country really matters in this game. And so the first thing as Germany, at least in this tutorial, is to start with the very top thing, remilitarize the Rhineland. If you don't know what that means, this area right here, very start game of Germany, you can't put any soldiers here because in real life, after World War I, Germany got punished for losing, and they had to follow these military treaties that, they couldn't have a big military, small air force, small navy, and that this area, which is called the Rhineland, couldn't have any military soldiers in it. But France could. They have all their guys right here, but Germany couldn't. And so what this does is basically we are following the real-life historical paths of World War II. We're playing as the Germans in World War II. And that what Hitler did is that we decided to remilitarize the Rhineland. Basically, we can do whatever we want here. So that's what we started, because our goal is to take over the world, right? And to start that, we got to start with the baby steps. So what do we do first? Well, I'd like to start with research after we did our national focus. You can find your research up here in the research tab, or if it pings you, you can get into it up here. This is what I like to start with. It's any nation. I go with this first. We go back, which is this electronic engineering. It gives you that little bit of an edge over the allies in the beginning of the game. Then we start with basic machine tools. After you get that, we're going to do construction 1. Then our very last one, I like to go into planes because air is king. We like to do range improvements so that our planes can fly further. So that is your research. This is what we start with. Now, after that, you can experiment and just look at the little buffs it does, and basically everything ties into something somehow. And when we talk about our industry, this is how much our factories make, because we got to make guns and tanks and planes just to, be able to field an army. And so now we're going to move on to our construction. Now you enter construction just like anything else. You can enter it up here. So we're going to start with infrastructure. And why do we start with infrastructure? If you've ever seen this game before, you can see people maybe building like military factories and civilian factories, and they're like, oh, do that first. Well, in my opinion, If you're playing a nation with a lot of like construction debuffs, like Germany, because of certain treaties that happened, um, you can't build these things as fast until later in the game when those buffs are gone. But what's not affected is infrastructure. And as Germany, I love to start with maxing it out these little areas right here. Once we do that, we're gonna get civilian factories and just throw them all there. What do civilian factories do? I remember as a new player, I thought they were kind of pointless and stupid because I didn't really see. What they do is that they help you build more things and they can help you with trade. So in order to get military factories and build airports and anti-air and forts and all these things, they build faster. The more civilian factories you have, the more civilian factories, the more happy your population is. The more happy your population is, the more manpower, the more buffs you get, and things are all good. But as we move on, we find that we need to make guns and tanks. So this is what I like to start out. You always make sure guns are being made and support are being made. This is for your infantry. These little guys right here. And what do we do with that? Well, as Germany, I like to add another 5 on. So they have 13 factories on it in total. Out of our, it doesn't show me my count, but regardless, that's right, it's right here. Here's our military factory count. We have 28, and each factory produces something. So this is how we assign our factories to make things. Well, support equipment's important. Just because they have rifles doesn't mean they don't have everything else. So I like to add a couple more on. Artillery, I like to give it a little bit more because artillery is very helpful in this game. Light tanks, early game, we're going to be changing the tanks so much, but I guess it's okay to keep making some. Trucks are so helpful because when we get into supply, trucks help supply your troops. Planes are very important. If you don't know how important planes are, well, honestly, in my opinion, you can't win a war without a good Air Force. So yeah, you need to focus on that. Now, when we're doing this, you're going to be like, well, I don't know which one and what does this mean? Why are we doing this? Well, this is your list of things to make. Here's your armored vehicles like tanks, and then here's your aircraft. I like to start with at least a little bit of production of anti-air no matter what country I am, because anti-air, believe it or not, is really helpful because I said before that air forces win wars. Well, if you're fighting someone with a really good air force, you can't completely always rely on your planes just to fight their air force. Sometimes you got to give your own soldiers some little anti-air guns, and that's what we're going to do later. But right now, as you see, we only got 28 factories. These are grayed out because it's almost like they're queued up. So when we get more factories, they will be assigned to this. But right now, we're kind of maxed out. And as you saw before, I deleted the medium air support, or the medium airframe. Why? It's kind of useless right now because, like I said, we changed these so much and upgrade these that right now you only want to be making, these are basically your fighters. If the names screw you up, just remember, these are the Messerschmitts. They're just fighters. And then these are the little dive bombers, the famous, or whatever you call them, whatever the Germans call them, I forget the name. Anyways, what's next in production is that, as you see, what is all this? It looks like ships, right? Well, you have a Navy. You have a Navy, Air Force, and Army. So if you were playing a country and you have a bunch of ships just queued up for whatever reason, you always start with the big ships. It's that simple. These are submarines and then your destroyers. Not that it doesn't take that much to make. So the bigger the ship is, the longer it takes to make. Pretty simple, right? So if you're very new, it doesn't really matter. Just start throwing in dockyards. These are equivalent military factories, but for ships. Start queuing things up, and then they'll start making them. And eventually, before wartime, they'll all be made and in your fleet. And so, that's your production. But we can't just expect our factories and, people in our country to make everything without resources, and Germany struggles in a couple of categories when it comes to resources. So enter your resources. You get this really blaring, really annoying thing that says insufficient resources. If you play any country in this game, at some point, at least 30 times throughout your whole gameplay. This is probably going to come up at least 30 times. It's super annoying. And what happens is that your factories need things to make, and that's what you see. See, they don't got any rubber. They need 2 steel, but they have 0 rubber. So this is how we fix that. You go into your trade, which is up here. We're going to find, it's always sorted into what country is willing to give you the most, because sometimes some of these countries do have a lot, but they just don't like you, so they're not going to give you that much. So what you do is, as Germany, I'm not going to be at war with Siam, but I will be at war with these 2 countries at some point. So I like to pick a country that I won't be at war with, so that way when wartime comes, they're not just going to cut me off from my trade, and I can keep that consistent flow. So I like to pick a country like Siam, which is Thailand, and they won't screw me over, and I'm happy with that. So as you look, the only thing that you really need to manage in here is kind of ignore coal for now. Coal is a very new mechanic in the game. It's kind of confusing, but what you need to pay attention to is steel, rubber, and aluminum, in my opinion, are usually most important. Most countries have a lot of steel, which is nice, but some countries don't. Now, every country has their own, like, buffs when it comes to resources, and some barely have any. So oil, the only way you can get more oil in this game is either building more refineries, building up your fuel cells so that way your storage, which is up here, gets bigger, or basically you trade for more. But here's the downside. You might think, well, I want tons of oil, you know, like I'm Germany and I want tons of oil. Well, if you max out this bar when you click on this, you see how many civilian factories it takes and how many convoys. So it takes convoys like ships to go across the sea, get it, and then come back. And then it takes factories to process it. That's why civilian factories are so important, because you need a lot of them to process a lot of trade if you have this huge industry. And you know, industry takes fuel, and you need fuel. And so as Germany, we're gonna have a lot of planes and tanks and ships, and so we need a lot of fuel. So that's something you always need to think about if you have a direct strategy for your game. But this isn't just like a country roleplay game. You want to fight, and so here's how you do it. You're usually gonna get like an unassigned divisions up here, and what we do is we assign them by you take them, and then you're gonna click down here to new army. Now I already did that. What I did was I assigned them into these divisions, and then through here I just picked a general. I gave him a general, and I put him in an army group, and I gave him a field marshal. And then what we do next is you want them on a front line. And so this is how we have a big battle line. This is how we invade countries. Well, what's next? You go, hey, I press front line, clicked on it. You got your click or drag, how long you want it to be. But it's always smart to cover this full area. So you do that. They're all going to go here. I'll show you. Look at that. They're all moving. And as they all go do that, now let's say it's 1939 and we're ready to invade Poland. Well, how does this work? Once they're here, you are now going to make an offensive line, because they're not just going to go automatically. Let's say I want to take all of Poland. So you're just going to drag on that Polish border. Boom. Offensive line. Now, when it's wartime, you'd say, hey, I'm at war now. I want to attack. And you go, boom. Then they're going to follow that order. This is a very, very basic way of doing this. And the more you play the game, the more you're going to understand. What I did was that I just put these guys in one single army group, all of my generals' divisions, and I just put them in one big line and one big order. Now, realistically, sometimes in this game, you're going to find putting everybody in one big battle line isn't useful because you need to cover other areas. So don't panic. Each one of your generals can individually fight a battle line themselves as long as they have enough troops for every tile. Now, what does that mean? Well, 1, 2, 3. So if you have 3 guys, the AI on the battle line is just going to put 1, 2, 3 divisions to cover each one of these tiles. And pretty simple, right? It's not that confusing. It looks a little daunting at first, but it's pretty easy. But as we see, last but not least, we are going to talk about our little political tab. How do we get that? Click on your flag. What does all this mean? This looks confusing. There's a lot going on. Well, I'll tell you. How fast we build things in our laws and government tab, it's called partial mobilization. That's what Germany starts with. Some countries start with civilian economy, and I don't think anybody really starts with war economy. But what does this mean? Well, you can look at the buffs and debuffs. It's how fast you construct certain things. So in total mobilization, we can build our military factories really fast. But look, it takes a lot of energy. And it puts a certain number of goods on your civilian factories. Consumer goods is kind of a confusing mechanic, but to sum it up, it's very important. So if you ever find something that says like a buff, that says like give me more civilian factories or like consumer goods, you take that. And it's helpful because the more consumer goods you have, the more happy your population is. Because all these tabs up here, it's very self-explanatory. It's how many people you have for your military, how many people want to go to war in your country, 35 war support, is your stability. See, everything in this game is like math. It's just numbers. It's like, it's very straightforward. Everything has to do with numbers in this game. So what I just showed you is kind of a very basic setup. And now there's all these other things. You're like, well, what does this mean? Well, that's kind of the fun of solving this game, is that it's very complicated. Every tutorial you're going to find goes on for like hours, or it can be like 30-minute, 40-minute tutorials. And it's just kind of like, well, it was all a lot at once. So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed by what I just showed you, I showed you the very, very, very basic start. If you're kind of lost on how to start yourself, and I just implore you, just keep playing, figure it out for yourself. You're going to fail. You're probably going to get invaded and die by the allies, but that's okay. Or whatever country you pick, that's okay. Just keep trying again and again, looking at people's guides. Everyone's so particular in this game about what we want to do. But don't worry. We just need to focus on your country, have a goal in mind, say, hey, I want to be like Germany in World War II. Let's take Poland first. Let's take, Netherlands and Belgium and Luxembourg. Take down France, invade the UK, and then take over the Soviet Union. That's a great goal to start with. You're probably going to fail a lot before you can even achieve that. But it's okay. You can start on a very easy mode in that start menu, and then just work your way up over time. Maybe one day you'll go to the very hardest mode. And so, welcome to Hearts of Iron. It's going to be really confusing, and it's kind of hard. But don't let it destroy your want to keep playing this game. A lot of people quit this game because they think it's too hard. Once you kind of get the very basics down, it's actually a pretty fun game. And so, have fun with it.